Has Putin quietly moved his $133 million superyacht to safety as tensions between Russia and NATO continue to escalate? What else could Russia be secretly relocating while NATO's attention remains fixed elsewhere across Europe? Has Putin once again outmaneuvered Ukraine and NATO by moving his luxury yacht beyond Zelensky's reach? Why is Ukraine watching helplessly as Putin's $133 million superyacht reportedly reaches the safety of Murmansk? Is the highly public tracking of Putin's superyacht actually part of a deliberate Russian information operation meant to mislead NATO? Russian President Vladimir Putin's $133 million superyacht has reportedly moved beyond the practical reach of Volodymyr Zelensky's forces. Putin's luxury vessel has reportedly departed European waters and sailed toward Russia's far northern coastline. Maritime intelligence data, reviewed by The Telegraph, revealed the latest movements of Putin's high-profile yacht. According to The Telegraph, the Graceful sailed from the Norwegian coast toward Russia's strategic port of Murmansk. Putin's superyacht is reportedly being escorted by 2 Russian warships while remaining protected by anti-drone defensive nets. A heavily armed Russian I-class destroyer and a 7,500-ton patrol vessel are reportedly accompanying the yacht throughout its voyage. NATO is reportedly maintaining close surveillance over the movements of the Russian presidential superyacht. German and Danish naval patrol ships reportedly shadowed the Russian vessels during their passage through the Baltic Sea, according to the report. Concern intensified after Putin's superyacht was reportedly detected sailing through Danish territorial waters. The reported transit marked the first confirmed sighting of the Graceful since the Ukraine war began, amid heightened Moscow-NATO tensions. The Graceful's departure from European waters comes as reports suggest Russia may be preparing to test NATO's defensive resolve. U.S. officials have reportedly warned Warsaw about the possibility of future Russian actions targeting Poland, according to reports. The Independent said Moscow could target critical infrastructure or stage a limited border incident to raise tensions. The warning comes shortly after Poland halted plans to transfer additional MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine. Warsaw said Kyiv failed to deliver the promised drone technology despite Poland's offer of military assistance. Poland has remained one of Ukraine's strongest military and political backers since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. Amid these developments, sources told Polish outlet Anet that Russia could stage a provocation within the coming months. The reported objective would be to test NATO's resolve and increase pressure over continued Western support for Ukraine. Sources said possible scenarios include drone strikes or missile attacks against key Polish infrastructure. They also warned of a limited ground incursion that could be portrayed as an accidental crossing of the border. Officials reportedly fear Russian or Belarusian troops could cite GPS errors or rescue missions as justification. Sources claimed Moscow could use such pressure to demand reduced Western military support for Ukraine. Baltic security sources also warned that similar hybrid provocations could be directed at other neighboring NATO members. The Independent said Russia's heavily militarized Kaliningrad exclave remains a potential launch point for such operations. Dmitry Medvedev says Finland is now among the countries Russia could consider potential nuclear targets. He linked the warning directly to Finland's decision to permit the import of nuclear weapons onto its territory. In a post on X, Medvedev sarcastically told Finland to rejoice, saying it had reached what he called peak security. Dmitry Medvedev said, and I quote, "Finland has lifted its ban on hosting nuclear weapons. What does that change for the Finns? Just one minor thing. Their country is now on Russia's nuclear target list. Rejoice, Finland. You've reached peak security." Unquote. The warning followed the Finnish parliament's approval of legislation allowing the import of nuclear weapons. The measure, introduced by Finland's government, was formally passed by lawmakers on June 17. Medvedev's comments represent the latest escalation in Russia's nuclear rhetoric directed at NATO countries. Finland joined NATO in 2023, ending decades of military non-alignment in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russian officials have repeatedly warned that NATO expansion would trigger what they describe as necessary countermeasures. So far, however, the Kremlin has announced no changes to Russia's official nuclear doctrine following Medvedev's remarks. Finland has approved a major legal change allowing the possible deployment of nuclear weapons on its territory, marking a significant shift in its national security policy. Finnish President Alexander Stubb signed amendments to the country's nuclear energy legislation, formally approving the changes passed by lawmakers. The updated law is scheduled to take effect on July 1st, introducing new rules regarding nuclear-related activities under Finland's revised security framework. The amendments now permit the import, transit, supply, and storage of nuclear weapons in Finland under approved arrangements, removing previous restrictions. Earlier this month, Finland's parliament voted to end the decades-old prohibition on nuclear weapons, reflecting the country's changing defense priorities. Finnish Defense Minister Antti Häkkänen said the previous ban no longer aligned with Finland's responsibilities as a member of NATO. Häkkänen argued that the updated legislation would allow Finland to fully participate in NATO's nuclear deterrent strategy and collective defense structure. He also criticized opponents of the measure, saying their resistance was based on security assumptions that no longer matched the current geopolitical environment. Russia claims its forces have captured the Ukrainian town of Kostiantynivka, with troops raising Russian flags across the area. Moscow says its troops are consolidating newly captured positions as military operations continue along the Eastern Front. Following the reported advance, Russia launched a new wave of missile, drone, and guided bomb attacks across Ukraine. Russian forces dropped 6 guided aerial bombs on central Sumy, striking a densely populated residential neighborhood. At least 4 people, including a 5-year-old girl, were killed in the devastating attack on Sumy on July 3rd. More than 20 people, including several children, were injured as rescue workers searched through the rubble. Ukrainian officials say apartment buildings, shops, and other civilian structures suffered extensive damage in the strike. President Zelensky accused Russia of deliberately targeting civilians in the heart of the city. Authorities warned that more people could still be trapped beneath the collapsed buildings as rescue operations continue. Russian strikes also hit Zaporizhia, setting a 9-story residential building on fire. At least 2 people were killed, while dozens of residents were evacuated from the heavily damaged building. Firefighters battled the flames as rescue teams searched through the destruction for survivors. The latest attacks came just days after Russia's massive barrage on Kiev left dozens dead. Kiev says Moscow is combining battlefield offensives with long-range strikes in an effort to weaken Ukraine's defenses. Ukrainian officials warn that Russia's aerial campaign continues to intensify as the fighting spreads across the country.
I would like to note the positive dynamics in the actions of our troops, the increasing pace of the offensive of the Union and military units of the Russian armed forces along the entire front line. I see this in your reports and in the reports of other commanders in the daily regime. In the last few months, the security lines in our border areas with Ukraine have been significantly expanded. The troops of the Vostok, Dnieper, and Donetsk People's Republics and the troops of the southern group of troops and the central group of troops continue to move to the west. In June, the units of the Russian armed forces were knocked out of 6 settlements, including the Russian control over the city of Konstantinovka. I would like to note that the capture of Kostiantynivka is only the first but very important stage in the destruction and formation of the Ukrainian armed forces, which is still holding the Slovyansk, Kramatorsk, and Kostiantynivka strongholds, as you said, where the enemy has shot a deep and well-defined system of fortifications, turning the cities of Slovyansk, Kramatorsk, Druzhkivka, and Kostiantynivka into a single defense unit. But with the capture of Konstantinovka, we are not talking about the Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, and Konstantinovka, but about the Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, and Druzhkovka strongholds. I mean, of course, the small settlement of Konstantinovka and the fortified city of Druzhkovka. Sergei Viktorovich, am I right?
Yes, you are.
What is the situation in Konstantinovka now, and how is the situation in the responsibility of the southern group of troops developing in general?
Comrade Supreme Commander-in-Chief, the southern group of troops continues to carry out tasks in the North Donetsk region in accordance with the plan of a special military operation. The offensive of the military units of the group is carried out along the entire line of combat contact on the wide front. In December of last year, Comrade Supreme Commander-in-Chief, we have already reported to you about the capture of the settlement of Seversk in the Slavyansk direction. As of today, the Union of the Third Army continues to carry out offensive actions. 23 settlements have been liberated, including 4 in June. These are the settlements of Ryalexandrovka, Peskanovka, Yurikovka, and Malinovka.
Sergei Viktorovich, how much time has passed from Seversk at the moment?
From Seversk, Comrade Supreme Commander-in-Chief, the Union of the Third Army has advanced by 22 kilometers.
How far is it to Slavyansk?
8. The front assault units of the Third Army carry out the task 8 kilometers from the settlement of Slavyansk.
Nevertheless, I want to convey the best words of gratitude and wishes to all the soldiers and commanders of the Third Army under the leadership of General Kudryavtsev. Thank you.